I usually only clean my ponds and filters when I notice that there's a reason to. Lately my aquascape pond has been developing a lot of algae on the surface and it's not going away. I haven't cleaned the filters in about 18 months, so today I decided it was time. I'm lazy and I want to do as little maintenance as possible, and when I do, I want it to be easy. The way you design the pond and filtration system, coupled with the amount of livestock you keep in the pond, will determine how often and how easy the pond is to maintain. So today I'm going to clean this pond, and while I've got the stuff out, I might clean some of the other ponds and give you an idea about how I maintain my different types of ponds. If you're interested in how any of the ponds or filtration systems were built, you should be able to find them easy enough by scrolling through the previous uploads. If I spent time going into each one on this video, it'll be longer than a Kevin Costner film. My name is Kev, and the aim of my channel is to help people build and maintain ponds without spending a fortune. If that sounds like something that interests you, you might like to subscribe and visit my website, Ozponds.com. So like I mentioned, this is an aquascape pond. I like the aquascape ecosystem pond approach. This pond was one of their small pond kits. It comes with everything you need apart from the rock, pebble, plants and fish. It has a skimmer that the pump sits in, and the water is pumped to a biofills, which is the biological filter. It's a good system, but the cost of the components is a bit outrageous. And once you understand how to filter water, there's no way you'd ever spend so much on these filters. In a minute we'll see some of my other ponds, which are much more budget friendly. Anyway, to clean the pond, I remove the protective sponges inside the skimmer and the sponges and biological media inside the waterfall filter. I give the sponges a quick hose off to remove any trapped sediments. When you're cleaning or at other times, you might notice these little fly larvae in areas with fast flow. These little guys and girls are freaking out now that the flow has stopped. I see them in most of my ponds with areas of high flow, and I'm told they're a good indicator of water health, so I hope that's true. I have a pond vac, so I'm using that to suck up some of the buildup of sediments inside the pond. Usually when you see the professional aquascape contractors clean their ponds, they remove all the fish, completely drain the pond, pressure wash everything, drain out that dirty water, and then refill it. It's a lot of work, but I also think that it's unnecessary, and I actually think that it's detrimental to the overall ecosystem. The sediments on the bottom of the pond and the biofilms on the rocks are teeming with life that's beneficial to the water quality and the health of whatever's living inside the pond. If you remove it all, you're really resetting the pond back to a new pond, and so then they want you to buy treatments that will help the pond mature. But the pond is already matured. Granted, we can't let the sediments build up indefinitely, but if we remove a little here and there and clean off what's been captured by the filters, that should be good enough. This clean out took maybe 15 minutes, and like I said, I hadn't done any of the filters for 18 months. Every couple of weeks I do a little bit of netting and stirring up the bottom of the pond so that some of that sediment and debris gets captured by the filters. So once I'd rinsed off the sponges and put the filters back together, I turned the pump back on and moved on to the next pond. I didn't top this up as we had a bit of rain the night before, so it was quite full and we're expecting more tonight, so hopefully that will finish topping it off. Now I'm over at my courtyard pond. This one's all DIY filters. While I had the vacuum out, I gave the pond a quick vac, stirred it up pretty good, and then I sucked up a bunch of the debris that had made its way over into the DIY skimmer that's in a bucket. After stirring up all that debris and sending it over to the skimmer, I really needed to clean the sponge that covers the pump, so I pulled that out and gave it a quick rinse down. While I was there, I removed the pump, checked that everything was good, and put everything back together. Then I made my way over to the bog filter, This is one of my bog in a barrel designs. The filter has a handy clean out valve that allows me to fully drain the filter. So while I had the pump off, I completely drained it. As you can see, the water's quite dirty in there. Once the filter was fully drained, I pulled off the pipe that comes from the pump. Normally this directs water straight down into the base of the filter and then it flows up through the rock and pebble. Then I turned the pump back on and allowed the water to flow over the surface of the bog. The valve at the base is still open so that any stubborn particles that didn't come out on the first flush are pushed to the bottom of the barrel and removed. Once the water looked about as clean as the pond water, I shut the valve off. Then I put the inflow pipe back into place so that the water is directed back down into the base of the filter. After vacuuming the pond and draining and flushing the bog filter, the water inside the pond was a little low. Here you can see the little DIY bucket skimmer. It's pumping out a bit quicker than it's getting replenished. So I grabbed the hose and gave it a little top up. Again, I'm expecting rain, so I just topped it up enough that the skimmer was functioning properly. I didn't use a dechlorinator as it was just a small amount of new water. While that was filling, I grabbed my little pull skimmer net and did a quick little net on the no pump wine barrel pond. This is the most common form of pond maintenance that I do, just a little netting here and there on all the outdoor ponds. I just sort of flick the net around, agitating the water, and skim off any algae or mulm that rises to the surface. There we go, once that settled down it looked a bit better. The rice fish are happy, and I like using the net more than the vac in general because you can see exactly what you are removing from the pond. From there I moved over to the solar powered pond. While I had the vac out, I might as well make use of it. This pond's been running a few months and I just wanted to see how much debris was accumulating in the negative edge reservoir. It was really clean down there, so that was good to know. From there I headed up to the top garden. This pond doesn't need a vac. I actually want to get a bit more of the mulm to accumulate. There's some algae growth over there where the stream dumps in, and a little bit up in the stream itself. But like I always say, patience is the key. But I figured while I had the vacuum out, I'd stick it down into the bog that sits inside the stream and see how much muck's accumulating down there. I didn't expect to see this fish. Obviously it made its way in as an egg and it's grown down there in the void space. I had no hope of catching it, so I put the vac down to see how much debris there was down there, but it was pretty clean. And for anyone that's worried, I didn't suck up the fish. From here I moved up to my dream pond. I know there's quite a bit of mould building up in that back corner where the stream and one of the bog filters spill back into the pond. I think the aerator also stops this stuff moving more freely to the intake bay. There's no jets on that side either. Anyway, I guess it's kind of handy having it build up more in one particular location. So I turned off the aerator so I could see what I was doing, although looking at this footage, all it shows is the reflection of the sky. So I got changed into my very trendy swimming shorts because I knew I was going to get wet, and started vacuuming up as much of the accumulated mold as I could. Then I packed away the vacuum as it looked like the rain might be coming a little earlier than I thought. But it didn't, and the sun came back out and I got warm. So then I conducted my favourite type of maintenance, which is I got in the pond and swam around. I might have even frolicked a little bit. The idea is that I'm stirring up anything light so that it floats up to the surface and gets carried over to the intake bay. Pretty much the same as I did on the barrel pond. So I grabbed my net, put on a shirt and hat, because you got to be sun smart, and netted out whatever I could. And of course, because I was filming, I fell over. So that sort of gives you an idea of how I approach some of my pond maintenance. I didn't do all the ponds. For example, the smaller ponds that sit under cover tend not to accumulate much waste, as they don't have that constant leaf fall entering them. I also didn't show any plant removal. Dead and dying pond plants can re-release any nutrients they use to grow, and that should be part of any maintenance program. Over here where I started on the aquascape pond, I need to do a bit more plant maintenance, but I think I might do that tomorrow. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. If so, feel free to tickle the thumbs up button, and remember you can see how any of these ponds were built by scrolling through the previous uploads. Thanks for watching. See ya.